Welcome back to Faye's Place, a podcast where dreamers have the liberty to dream. I'm your host, Phaedra, and I am so excited that we have this time to dream together. From shows like Next in Fashion on Netflix to walking the runway during New York Fashion Week, our guest is the real deal. She's a professional model who walks the walk, books the gigs, and she's here to tell us how she manages it all. Bringing us the unhemmed truth and serving the facts of what really goes on behind the scenes, it's Liana Diane. Thanks for stopping by Faye's Place. How are you?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So take us back to 5-year-old Leanna. What did she dream of becoming?
Honestly, that's such a good question. Um, I I've been in like the creative space for so long. If anyone knows like my family background, my mom specifically, like she's always had us, in the arts, being a creative herself. So from dance to, singing in the choir, there's just a lot of like creativity around me. Um, I won't necessarily say that I wanted to be a model like right away. It kind of I kind of it kind of fell into my lap, I would say, but I've always wanted to be like a creative person. I've always, loved the arts, loved, self-expression. So whatever, I could do that was kind of in alignment with that, that's what I was naturally drawn to. So as a 5-year-old, I would say I'd probably wanted to do a lot of things. I don't know if I had like a set thing that I really wanted to do. And I think that kind of carries into who I am today. Like, not only am I a model, but I also am a therapist. I'm big into yoga, I'm into kickboxing, running. I still, sing occasionally as well. So just wearing multiple hats, I would say that's always been my dream. And I'm glad that, my life right now is in alignment with that.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And when you talk to creatives, you realize that they don't have just one set path. And I love
Right.
that about us. And that's why I think like creatives only really understand creatives because if you talk to somebody who's not in the creative field, they'd be like, "You just gotta stick to one thing." I'm like, "But I
Right.
can't."
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that.
So when did modeling go from, "Oh, this is cool" to, "Oh, I'm actually doing this"?
So growing up, being really tall, kind of having, I guess, the look, and my mom was also a model. I don't say
Mm-hmm.
this to be braggadocious at all. It's just something I heard a lot growing up. But having had a mom that was in the industry, she always emphasized, the importance of getting your education first. Not only was she a model, but she was also a teacher and educator, both my parents. So that was always like really emphasized within our household. So I knew the expectation was I had to go to college, I had to get a degree, and after that, I had the freedom to choose, more so of what I wanted. So I did that, and I'm so glad that I, went to college, had that experience. I don't regret that at all. But afterwards, I decided that I was going to move to New York. I'm from New York originally, but Long Island specifically. So I wanted to move to New York City. I got an opportunity through AmeriCorps, long story short, like a volunteering program that allowed me to live here for free. Um, and it kind of just like, again, it naturally kind of occurred. I was going out to different events and festivals, and, photographers would, connect with me there and be like, hey, love to shoot with you sometime. So it kind of really happened organically. I ended up in, I think, Glamour magazine. I was at Carl Fest one year and ended up in Glamour. Someone got a shot of me, ended up there. Essence Fest, I think that was like 2019. I went with my mom and my best friend. A picture of me ended up in Essence while I was there. So I was like, okay, like this kind of keeps happening. So I'm in New York, might as well, take advantage of it and see where I can kind of take this. So that was kind of how it unfolded.
So what's the very first step you took towards this dream? And were you scared or delusional or both?
I guess the first step was agreeing to join like the first fashion show that I ever did. I'm so mad I don't. I think the designer's name is Denali. Um, such a talent to this day. They're super talented. But yeah, I think it was like deciding to do that first show, which led into my first fashion week, and then that's how I got signed to my first agency. But I don't know if I was scared or delusional. I really think at the beginning it was about fun. And I think that's like what I'm trying to get back into it, like the fun of it. I didn't really know where it was going to take me or where I was going. I was just kind of like, this is an opportunity. This is another channel for me to express myself. So I kind of just trusted in that aspect of it, and the fact that I was able to, blessed enough to just have the opportunity to see how it would take me. So I wouldn't say I was scared or delusional. I think I was just like hopeful and just open, to see where it would go.
I love that. I love that perspective. I feel that when you are just open and excited about certain things, like you have no expectations, you go even further
Hmm.
than when
Right.
you like try to focus so hard on it. I don't know. Have you ever seen the show Ugly Betty?
I've heard of it, and I think I've
Okay.
maybe seen like an episode or clips.
I just watched the full series like not too long ago. I think it's probably you probably would enjoy it. But I
Hmm.
wanted to know because I grew up watching America's Next Top Model. Is the
Yes.
industry anything like that show?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I would say yes and no. I mean, I feel like it's a TV show, so it's dramatized. A lot of things, aspects of the show are kind of exaggerated. I would say the cutthroat nature of it um, can be similar. But I would say overall, my experience within the industry has been more positive than negative. Of course, there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of, doors that will be closed in your face, and it's like that's a part of it that people don't really see. But I would also say that I've made a lot of great like friendships and connections throughout my journey, and I think that's what I would say that is the best part. So yeah, while there's definitely some good and bad that is reflected in the show, I would say overall my experience wasn't as dramatic or some would say traumatizing as that show portrays the industry to be.
When you were watching it growing up, did you ever say like, "Yes, I want to do this," or you just looked at
Yeah.
it? Really? Mm-hmm.
No, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that was definitely like my first introduction to the whole world of it. And I did have dreams at one point, like, oh, I'm gonna try for the show, like when it was during its peak. Once it kind of like was on its decline, I was like, maybe I don't need to go through all of that to get started. But yeah, no, definitely that show was a big influence in like my ideas around it, and overall I think the fun of the show too. I don't think it was all bad, but the fun and exciting nature of the show definitely drew me into modeling as the whole world of it.
That moves me right into my next question is what's a modeling skill that no one talks about?
Two things come to mind. First off, I would say just like bodily awareness. Like you have to have a really good sense of like movement, how to move in front of a camera. 'Cause like you don't really realize like you have to kind of have an idea of like what a pose or a movement looks like. And you're not always gonna nail it. I would also say that too. But like when you do, it's really nice to see that translated through a photograph. And then also I think a big part of it is also like just your presence and like how you interact with and engage with the people around you. I feel like that's so important as well. Having a good presence and being respectful, being kind, being gracious behind the scenes is just as important as, how you look and show up in front of a camera. I feel like that's definitely very understated as well. Like, you might get an opportunity, but, how you act or how you present yourself on set will definitely determine if you will be back or not. So just keeping that in mind as well is important.
Yeah, and you brought up something really great when you was talking about like how to move in front of the camera. So how did you learn how to move in front of the camera? Did you just like go into a photo shoot willy-nilly, just like, let me see if this sticks, or did you kind of know already? Was there training that you had?
Definitely not at the beginning. I think over time you get more comfortable and aware of yourself. And yeah, it just comes with practice. Yeah, like the more you shoot, the more comfortable you'll get. I think having a background in dance definitely helped though. You know, when you're in a studio and you're moving in front of a mirror constantly, that can help a lot with bodily awareness. So I would say that that background and then just practice over time. But still to this day, like if I haven't shot in a while, I'll be like, okay, like I have to loosen up. I have to get back in the headspace for this. But usually, like over the course of the shoot, you get more and more comfortable.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up dancing. I know a lot of times the arts is not looked at very seriously, but it really is a foundation for so many different occupations. You know, like even football players have to take ballet
Yes.
sometimes,
Yeah.
and dancing, it teaches you how to work well with other. Like you said, you
Hmm.
are aware of how your body is, and then also like moving around the space. Like you might practice in this small area, but when you get to performance, it might be larger or vice versa. So
Hmm.
you have to learn. And then also there's science behind it. So I love
Yes.
that you brought that out. I love it. I love it. How long did you study dance?
From the time I was like 3, 4 years old, I stopped around like 13. I wish I kept going, but
Mm-hmm.
just for various reasons. But even still, I was like an athlete in high school, and to this day, fitness and movement has always been really important to me. So that's always been helpful.
What sports did you play?
I mostly ran track. That was like my primary thing in high school, and to this day, I do a lot of running. I do kickboxing. I do, a lot of different things.
We talked about some of the opportunities that you've had so far. What is one that stood out the most? Whether it's good or bad, or both.
Uh, I would definitely say, um, next to fashion, that was definitely like probably the biggest thing I've done. It's funny, I've done a lot of like last year I did a couple shoots. And it's funny, like you'll do certain things. Like I was working for this brand, it was called Soul Boost. It was like underneath Coca-Cola. It was a really big shoot. They're like, oh, this is gonna be a big campaign, it's gonna be everywhere. And then it never came out. I still got paid though, so I'm not mad at it. But
That's the good part about it.
it'll be like that where like I've done like music video shoots, like worked all throughout the night, and then it's just like, oh, we decided to go in a different direction. And it's just like, like it's still experience at the end of the day. It's still, walking away from that with something. It's just, you don't get to show it off to your friends or your family because it's just like, oh, well, technically I'm not allowed to share the images, and it just kind of lost media now. But yeah, there definitely been a lot of experiences like that where I was like, oh, this is like a really great set. The people are really nice. This is, a great opportunity, but, it doesn't necessarily come into fruition. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but, you live and you learn. And if anything, getting paid is always nice. So,
Oh, yes. Who are the models that you are inspired by?
there's always like the typical like Naomi, Tyra, those are like the big names growing up. I also loved Jessica White growing up. Alec Weck was another one. Just like beautiful dark skinned beauties that like just kind of represented and put on for that kind of that type of beauty was always really important to me growing up as a dark skinned girl. Like it's an experience, and working on self esteem around that. It was always just really nice to see them be visible and be out, and celebrated for their looks. So I would say definitely, yeah, Jessica White, Alec Weck is another. Grace Jones, like there's just so many people I could name, but those like stick out to me.
Representation, it matters. And
Hmm.
now you are representing for the younger girls coming up. Hi, friends, it's Phaedra, and you are listening to Faye's Place. Join us each week as we talk to industry insiders about their journey and what it takes to turn dreams into a reality. Whether you aspire to be in the entertainment field or just inspired by the hustle, count this as your backstage pass. Join us every Monday for a brand new episode. And also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Faye's Place. Pursuing your dream is hard enough. You might as well look good while you're doing it. Like I always say, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. Embodied Apparel is all about doing good for the community. It provides quality statement apparel and opportunities for firsthand social and civic engagement. My favorite part is not only are the t-shirts soft and comfortable, but they are printed by Turn 90, which is a nonprofit that provides therapy and job placement to men creating a new direction after prison. Now that's a dream I can get behind. Shop now at embodiedapparel.com, and for a 10% discount on your purchase, please use the code FazePlace. So like you mentioned earlier, you are an educated girly with your degree in social work. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how does that career path impact your perspective and how you maneuver through the modeling world?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. I definitely think that because they're so different, it keeps me grounded. It keeps me humble in a lot of the work that I'm doing in modeling. When you're working with people that are, facing challenges that are so, severe, from homelessness, domestic violence, you know, you name it. Um, it really like minimizes like, if I don't get this opportunity or if my career is not going in the way that I want it right now, it's like I'm still blessed to just have a roof over my head, to be able to serve, that's growing up in the church, that's like a big, big part of, just who we are, just serving the community, serving the kingdom, still being able to do that in my work. I think it creates a lot of balance. I feel like people that I know in the industry, it's like, it's so cutthroat and it can be really hard. But I always, kind of remember like, whatever happens, I have a career, outside of this industry and I can take care of myself through it. And it'll always be there. Modeling will always be there, especially as Black people, Black don't crack. So it'll always,
Period.
I'm grateful for the work that I do as a therapist just as much, if not more, than, my work within the modeling industry. So, yeah.
That's great. And I think you probably touched on it a little, but out of everything you could have chose, what led you to social work?
Great question. Yeah, so mental health work has always been super important to me. I'm a social worker, I'm a therapist, a psychotherapist currently, but it's definitely under the umbrella of social work. Um, and yeah, I feel like being being a therapist, I was a client first, so I had my therapist. I started in therapy when I was in college, and I feel like being in therapy, really
Same,
built up my
same.
confidence. It got me to a place where I could, go out and model and be more visible, being a very shy and anxious kid. It was not always easy to kind of put myself out there, but I think through, therapy, I was able to build that up and build up self-esteem and, awareness to be able to go out and do these things. So I feel like it's, if anything, very foundational. And I'm glad again to be in the position to, help others, as a therapist now, unlock their full potential.
How do you balance it? Because that's your, what is it, your day job being a therapist, and then you also have this wonderful modeling career. Is that overwhelming? How do you do it all?
I wouldn't say it's too overwhelming. Like with modeling, there's definitely ebbs and flows. Like it's not as fast paced as people might seem or think it is. Like Fashion Week's around the corner, so things are gonna start picking up soon. But I don't know if I'm even gonna do Fashion Week. We'll see. Fingers crossed, God willing, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, I mean, thankfully with therapy, my current position, like I'm able to set my hours. I work from home 4 out of 5 days a week. So I really do have a lot of
Wonderful,
flexibility
wonderful.
too. If I need to rearrange something with a client, I can. And, they're very flexible with me as I am with them. So it does allow for a lot of freedom to, when opportunities present themselves to work around it. So, yeah.
So let's talk to the aspiring models who have a dream of getting into this industry. What is your advice about getting involved with an agent? Like,
Mhm.
what is the first step?
There's so many different pathways. I would say you just want to really start off with like some good solid like tests shoot like images. So if you honestly could take them on a cell phone, like the images that agencies are looking for in particular, digitals is what we call them. You could just take them on an iPhone. Just you need like good natural lighting. Maybe, if you could take them on a white wall, like with a white background behind you. You could see also on like a lot of different websites for like the agencies in New York, LA, places like that. They will show you like, okay, this is what we want it to kind of look like to give you an idea of it. Very minimal makeup. You don't have to have any fancy clothes on or anything like that. As a model, you're kind of like what's the word? It's
A
like almost like being a
canvas?
mannequin, like
Uh,
exactly a canvas.
mhm.
So they don't want it to be too busy or, too much going on. They just want to see what you really look like, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, I'd also say, practicing in front of the camera is always good. You don't have to spend too much money to get started. If anything, you want to, find a good mother agent. I would say starting with a mother agent before you look to like the bigger agencies that can kind of invest in you.
Yeah, tell us what a
Is
mother
always
agent
good.
is. What is a mother
Uh,
agent?
yeah, so mother agent is basically someone that scouts, young up and coming models, invests in them, so helps them build up their book, their portfolio, to then send to larger agencies. So starting off, I actually never had a mother agent, so that kind of made my experience a little bit different. Still possible to do it without one, but I would always recommend for people coming up to start with a mother agency, like a smaller agency in general, so that you can really kind of get your feet wet. They invest in you, and then over time you can like build yourself up to go to those bigger agencies.
So, is there a mother agency that you know of that people could probably start their research on, or is it better just to Google mother agencies and modeling?
Yeah, I would say even through like social media, like Instagram platforms, you're gonna see a lot of agencies through there. A lot of agencies follow other agencies, so going through their following list, finding like not just agents, but scouts. Like just I would say through social media platforms, and I'd also say like if you're starting out on your own social media platform, like tagging different agencies. That's actually how I got signed to my first agency, like bigger agency. I was just tagging a bunch of agencies that I was interested in my pictures, and then one of them DM'd me. It's all been through social media, honestly. Like the last agency I was signed to, they reached out to me through social media. So social media is really a big part of it.
You hear so many different things about social media, but I'm always a strong proponent for the internet, for social
Hmm.
media. It's really how you use it. Everything is good until you make it bad. So I love the
Hmm.
fact that you got your start just by tagging them. I mean, the only thing they could have did was not answer back, but you
Right.
got a reply. So
Yeah,
I love
definitely.
that. Now, we did talk about mental health and how this industry is very cutthroat. Rejection is a huge part of the entertainment industry and can play a huge role on self esteem if it's not managed. How do you make sure your mental health is good?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, even though I'm a therapist now, I still make sure I'm in therapy too. Fitness, I think, is a big part of my management of my mental health. Moving my body, it gives you that boost and confidence, and, just leaning on, family, friends, loved ones, prayer, like all of that really helps, just maintaining and being okay. So, yeah.
What are some signs that a creative can look for?
Hmm.
to know if maybe they have fallen into a depression or
Hmm.
anxiety based on, rejection or, just being in the industry in general? What are some signs?
I would say definitely with depression, especially if like you're passionate about something, and you're slowly kind of losing the motivation or drive to do it. Doing, whether it's a hobby or even just, going out, getting out of bed, sometimes that can be a part of depression too. So I would say that's just something to look out for. And, it can be really hard to keep going and keep your spark, especially when you know, doors keep getting closed and stuff. So I think, keeping in mind that, and when you feel like you're losing your spark, it's okay to, need to maybe take a step back or take a break. But, if you feel like you just want to give up, that's maybe a sign that, okay, maybe I need some extra support, some extra help, some extra guidance.
So, what advice do you have for aspiring models?
I would definitely say, it's always, great to think about it like this. Like, you want to try to find your niche. So, especially in a big city like New York, where there's, I always say if you throw a rock, you're going to hit it with a model. Like, it's so easy to find like models everywhere. But, something that kind of makes you you, that makes you stand out. And you'd be surprised. Like, there's so many different types of modeling out there. Not only is there runway, commercial, there's hand modeling, there's, you know, like you could do so much with it. I've done hand modeling before. That was probably the one of the best jobs ever. You could just have something maybe that stands out about you. You don't have to necessarily be the, typical 5'11" skinny tall, person. You can, be plus sized, you can be disabled, like you can have like unique features about you. If anything, they really like unique features. Like, I've gotten jobs because I have a gap in my teeth, something that isn't necessarily always seen as positive, but it makes you stand out. So, just thinking about where you can kind of stand out, and how you can kind of market that, I think is really important. So if you're interested in it, don't be scared or don't be shy. Just, see what's maybe out there, what opportunities are out there.
Oh, that is great advice. I love that. Now, personally and professionally, what are you currently dreaming of?
One of my goals, and that's the thing, whether or not this happens, is I feel like I've done a lot within the industry and I'm satisfied with it. I would love to like be on a billboard somewhere. That would be really cool. I feel like I've come close to it, but I don't know if it's in my if it's in, the plans for me or not. We'll see. But that would be really nice. I've always wanted to be in Target somehow. We'll
We gotta
see
wait till this
if
boycott
this
is over,
goes
then you
well.
could be in
That's
Target.
true. Yeah, and honestly, maybe I don't need to be a Target. Billboard, something like that, where it's like people could walk past and see and be like, oh, that's Liana. But I guess that kind of did happen with Netflix, because people to this day will send me pictures like, oh, I saw your picture on the thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been so long, but thanks for noticing.
I'm sure you would definitely get on a billboard. I know
Thank
that
you.
already. Yes. You talked about being confident, and when you see your
Hmm.
pictures online, you just exude confidence. You're comfortable in
Thank
your
you.
skin, and you're a great representation. I'm so happy to know you. And you
Oh,
make us
feelings
all
mutual.
proud. Well, tell
Thank
people
you.
how they can reach out to you and follow you online. What's the best way?
I am Liana Diane, Liana Diane, Diane 7, on all platforms. So Instagram, TikTok, not really on Facebook, uh, but yeah, those are like my main two: Instagram, TikTok. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. expanding. We'll see, maybe some YouTube one day. But yeah,
I would
just
love
keep it on the
that.
TikTok for now.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by Faye's Place. You are always welcomed.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime, anytime. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of Faye's Place. We'll be back next Monday with an interview and a show with you in mind. I love you all for listening. This podcast episode was recorded with Riverside.